If the ownership of this house isn't transferred to me, I'm contemplating divorce. I was taken aback when my husband suddenly dropped this bombshell. This house holds precious memories of our family, and I can't bring myself to let it go. However, my husband is threatening me, playing with my emotions. Distraught, I reached out to my father for help. My name is Emily. I'm 30 years old, a full-time housewife, dedicating my days to supporting my family through household chores. I married John 2 years ago, quitting my job to support our life together. My husband worked hard for us, but since my father-in-law's passing, my mother-in-law moved in, disrupting our peaceful life completely. Surprisingly, I learned about my mother-in-law's move only the day before it happened. When my husband came home, he casually mentioned it as if it were a natural thing. Huh, this is so sudden. Your mother is coming over to visit tomorrow? I asked. No, she's not coming to visit. She's moving in. So please prepare and clean up, he replied. In retrospect, I felt something was off about my husband's decision-making. Normally, such decisions should be discussed with his wife beforehand. However, in my case, the decision had already been made without my knowledge. The next day, my mother-in-law arrived with a lot of luggage, ready to move into our house. It's been a while. I'm glad you look well, Mary. Please come in, I greeted her. Strangely, she seemed displeased. Emily, why didn't you come pick me up? Isn't it common sense to meet at the station when your mother-in-law is coming, especially when I'm carrying big luggage? She complained. I explained that I didn't know her arrival time, but she retorted that I should have contacted her, labeling me as thoughtless. From that day on, my mother-in-law's snide comments intensified. As soon as my husband left for work, the barrage began. Emily, why are you sitting there? Do the dishes. You should have finished the laundry in the morning. That's common knowledge. I apologized and promised to do the laundry after the dishes. However, her comments continued, criticizing my priorities and claiming that in her house, there's a rule to do laundry immediately after breakfast, dismissing any excuses. I maintain my own daily routine. Why can't Mary understand that I'm not refusing to do the work? It seems she just can't accept my way of doing things. Even if I did things her way, she would still find fault and complain every day. The daytime hours alone with her were especially challenging. One day, I had an epiphany on how to end this living hell with my mother-in-law. Move to the house I inherited from my father and live in a separate home from her. My father retired early a few months ago, and as a result, my parents started a new life in the countryside. They then passed on their house to me. Fortunately, that house isn't too far from our current apartment, and we were planning to move eventually. Living with my mother-in-law has reached my limits, so I decided to talk to my husband about moving sooner. John, can we talk for a moment? I asked. He inquired. What's up? Anything happened? I brought up the house my father gave us and suggested moving there. Oh, that house. We did talk about moving there someday. Why the sudden decision? He wondered. I explained. Well, I've been having some difficulties with your mother. I can't bear living with her anymore, so I'm seriously considering moving. Surprisingly, my husband agreed to the move. After informing Mary, we decided to move a week later. I thought she would oppose, but she accepted our decision with a big smile. Goodbye, John and Emily. I'm so sorry for the sudden decision to move, she said. We reassured her, don't worry about it. It's wonderful that your father gave you the house. He's very sweet. Thank you. Please visit us sometime. She promised to visit, and we headed to our new home. I felt relieved. I wouldn't have to hear snide remarks from her anymore. From now on, I could live freely at my own pace. Although I thought she might oppose, I'm glad I consulted John. However, my peace did not last. While I could keep a distance from my mother-in-law and reduce stress, my husband started coming home late. It wasn't just late returns. There were days when he wouldn't come home at all. He was visiting his mother, defending his actions by saying he was worried about her. It became too frequent, disrupting my daily life. One day, I realized this couldn't go on. I sat him down for a talk. John, you've been coming home really late lately, and sometimes you don't even come home at all. Is that so? I'm just worried about my mother, he replied. That's not the point. At least let me know beforehand that you'll be late so I'll know I don't have to prepare dinner. Since you're a housewife and always at home, you can eat the leftovers for lunch the next day, right? So you're saying I should just accept everything quietly because I'm a housewife? Are you saying we shouldn't talk about this? Isn't that the truth? Housewives just relax at home, right? What? What are you saying? Anyway, I'm worried about leaving my mother alone. Ellie will be coming back soon, and I need to discuss some things with her. Wait, Ellie is coming back. Ellie is John's sister who currently lives abroad for work. It was the first time I heard she's coming back, but what does he need to discuss with her? Curious, I asked my husband. We're moving Ellie here to live with us. What? Live together? Yes, she kept saying she wanted a big house like the one she lived abroad. That's why I thought of letting her stay in this house. I don't understand. Suddenly informed of this, I couldn't think of anything. Is my sister-in-law going to live in this house? I was just able to escape Mary's bickering, and now his sister. Wait a minute. Why is Ellie going to live in this house? This is the house that I inherited from my father. It's unnatural. This is the only big house that would satisfy Ellie. The apartment where we used to live is now where my mother stays, and it's too small for 4 people. Don't just decide on your own. I never intended to live with Ellie. Oh, I don't plan to live together either. I intend to give this house to Ellie. What? Why? Because we plan to move back with my mother. Ellie can use this house freely. I was taken aback by my husband's unreasonable proposal and felt like fainting. Despite my repeated insistence that I had no intention of living with my mother-in-law, my husband eventually became furious. Can't you be a little more considerate? You can live because of me, so just do as I say. Enough is enough. Enough of your jokes. This house is precious to me, inherited from my father. Why should I give it to Ellie? Such a wonderful house is wasted on you, isn't it? I've already told Ellie that I've got her a large house. It's too late to say otherwise now. I wasn't consulted in any of this decision. Either way, I can't accept it. You're always complaining. Enough. Calm down and think. I'll go back to my mother's for a while. My husband angrily slammed the door and left. Left alone in the room, tears streamed down my face. I couldn't understand why my husband decided everything on his own. It's unimaginable that he intends to give away the house. I inherited my father's house, but my husband insisted on giving it to my sister-in-law, Ellie. Every day, he bombarded me with messages, asking if I had calmed down and urging me to come back soon. Each time, I had to firmly tell him that I had no intention of agreeing. Then, one day, he sent a message that read, "Hey, Emily, when will you come here and live with me? Stop nagging. I've said it so many times. I have no intention of living with Mary, moving there, and giving this house to Ellie. I've already told Ellie, stop being selfish. She might be coming back this week, so there's no time. Why should I give up my house for your family? I inherited this house from my father. Don't decide on your own. Who do you think you're talking to? Even my mother is furious. I'm at my wit's end. That's not my problem. You're ignoring my feelings." My husband let out a big sigh over the phone, clearly frustrated. Then he said something shocking. "If you can't listen to me, then let's divorce. Hand over the house to Ellie. Leave by tomorrow." At that moment, my love for my husband quickly faded. Threatening me with the word divorce was utterly despicable, and I couldn't possibly forgive him. To use divorce as a threat without considering someone's feelings was unacceptable. I couldn't let these people have their way. As I burned with anger, my husband continued to speak with a triumphant and dominating tone. "Listen, if you don't leave by tomorrow, I'll really divorce you. Got it?" "Wait, are you serious?" I asked, shocked. "Of course I am. You don't have a choice. What will you do if you, a housewife, get divorced? You can't survive. Enough, I get it. Good. Hurry up and move over here. My mother is looking forward to disciplining you." He hung up the phone with a confident tone, thinking I would do as he said. After that call, I made up my mind and decided to seek help from my father for a plan. The next day came, and I calmly replied, "Yes, everything's ready," when asked about the move. Curious about Ellie's return, my husband inquired, "By the way, I'm curious about when Ellie will be back." "She'll be back tomorrow." "Why are you so obsessed with Ellie?" "Between you and me, she seems to have made a lot from stock investments. I see, so if you provide her with the house, maybe you can ask for financial help." "That's so like you. Anyway, you need to leave that house today. It's inconvenient for all of us." "Don't worry. I've already moved," I said calmly. "What? What do you mean?" My husband seemed genuinely surprised. "I knew it. You don't want to divorce me, do you?" "Naturally. Without an income, you can't survive. But all of this is coming to an end. We're still married now, so that's why we're talking." "Wait, what? I can only think about divorce now." My husband was clearly shaken by my words. "You promised to move out of that house, right, and live with me? But you've already moved." "What are you saying?" "Of course, I won't live in a house with a husband who decides everything on his own and a bullying mother-in-law." "Huh. Why are you including me? You promised to move out for Ellie." "I said I've already moved, didn't I?" "I did as you said. Enough with the jokes. Where are you now?" My husband's tone was panicky, and he was clearly losing his cool. "Actually, I'm at my parents' house." "Why did I move to my parents' rural home?" "I don't plan on returning to where you guys are," I declared to my husband. He replied with a hint of relief in his voice. "You should have told me that sooner. If I could just give that house to Ellie, it doesn't matter where you live. It would require $3,300,000, he explained. $3,300,000? What? I exclaimed. I put the house I got from my father up for sale. So if you really want to give it to Ellie, buy it for $3,300,000 and then hand it over, he calmly stated. What? Are you joking? I'm serious, he insisted. The house was still in my father's name, so I asked him to sell it. In reality, what I asked my father for was to sell the house. My father had always said, if something happens, contact me. You can live or sell this house as you like. I'll help you. As a result of the valuation, a price of $3,300,000 was proposed, which I gladly agreed to and put the house on the market immediately. My husband probably never saw this coming. Consumed with anger, he spat out insults. Why are you doing this without asking me? This is unforgivable. Dan, I retorted. I'm not asking for nor do I need your approval. We're getting divorced soon anyway. I don't care. Do you understand your position? You'll be the one in trouble if we divorce since you don't have an income. You're just a housewife. I'd rather struggle on my own than be with you forever. Listen, Ellie will be coming back soon. I told you, I'm relying on Ellie's money, didn't I? So, what? Like I said, if you want to let dear Ellie live in that house, just buy it for $3,300,000. That is if you can. What? That's impossible. If Ellie has made a lot of money from her investments, I don't see why she can't afford it. I don't know how much she made, but that's too much. She can never afford it, my husband insisted, maintaining his domineering attitude. I felt it was foolish to spend any more time on him and unleashed everything I wanted to say. I'm done with you and this ridiculous mess. Did you think threatening divorce would make me give up the house? If you thought being a housewife meant I'd do whatever you say, you're so wrong. Hey, let's calm down and talk. I am calm. Isn't it you who's panicking? I won't be controlled by you or your family anymore. Stay out of my life. Go to hell with your beloved mother, you mama's boy. I shouted loudly enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, then abruptly hung up the phone. Of course, I'd had enough of these insane calls from my husband, so I blocked his number. I immediately consulted my lawyer and decided to request a divorce. It took some time, but the divorce was finalized, recognizing my husband's fault. He and Mary still live in that apartment. As for Ellie, they couldn't provide the large house she wanted, and she was furious, claiming this wasn't the deal and made a U-turn back overseas. My ex-husband's plan to seek financial assistance from his successful sister fell through. Now, he seems to be struggling financially, having to pay me alimony and support his mother. As long as he continues to live with such a selfish mother, his life will never be prosperous. On the other hand, I've moved to the countryside and am enjoying peaceful days with my parents. I recently started a clerical job at a small company introduced by a neighbor. With that salary, I can live comfortably. I plan to live here for a while. I want to be by my parents' side as much as possible to repay the kindness they've shown me.